Good afternoon, good evening.
We're live.
We're live. And you're talking about food for potluck. I don't know if enough of it. Good evening, people of the Facebook. It's Island Origins Live time, and we are live with Mr. Ian Hamilton, our special guest.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. All right, so I'm Calibe. This is Sexy Man, aka David, or is it David, aka Sexy Man?
Come on, then you want just.
Bottom line, he's sexy.
That's right.
Too sexy for that shirt, boy. But anyway, so it's election night in America, and did y'all vote?
I think it's Florida.
I saw people out of town,
It's like
maybe
two
they're
states.
Floridians in different states.
It's not every state.
A majority of the states are.
What? Is today? I thought it was like split up.
Prelim. So prelim.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, it's election night.
It's election night in America. It's primaries, so you don't need to get your knickers in a knot, right? So if you did not go out to vote today, shame on you still. But there is still, this is the primary, so you have to be Democrat or Republican in Florida. I don't know if it's the same in every state. But in order to vote for your representatives, you have to be Democrat to vote for the Democrat. You have to be Republican to vote for the Republican. In the general election in November is where you're going to really see like the heat, the stuff hitting the fan. Is that what they say?
It does hit the fan.
Yeah, buddy. So those of you, I have people in St. Lucie County and whatever saying, oh my gosh, I didn't change my driver's license, so I couldn't vote. You get a pass this time, but don't let it happen again.
And you do usually give people passes. The only people who should get a pass is if you are independent.
Mm-hmm.
And even so, can't you vote for that one yes or no? There are like 2 or 3 things that you can vote for.
Yeah, there are a couple of things you can vote for, but
yeah.
when you look at it from the governor, for example, that's a huge race for Florida, right?
Huge race.
So you had the Democrats, Republicans, and if you're independent, you didn't get a chance to choose which one will go to the next round. So
I do know some responsible citizens who actually changed their designation from independent to Democrat or Republican, so that they could have a voice.
And then they change it back after.
I don't know if they're going to change it back or stay where they are.
You better change it back.
I did that, not this round, but earlier.
Previously.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, whatever works, whatever gets people engaged. So, David is probably going to be on the Facebook watching the comments, and one of us needs to also be on the election. Right. They're not going to be calling anything before we finish the show. All right, so we forget about it. Everybody else, watch CNN.
Our buddy Marlon, he did say he was going to be live from, where was he?
He's on Local 10.
Local 10, yeah.
What time is that though?
Starting at 7.
Starting at 7, but
well,
again,
go to him at 8.
he'll be on for a couple hours, so he'll be good.
He's alright. He has the whole rest of the country.
But then again, in today's environment, people are doing what? They multitask. They're looking at the phone, Facebook, plus the
They need to
TV's
focus.
on,
They need to focus.
You're sure right. I find myself doing that too, watching movie on the computer and looking at Yahoo and still doing my work.
Yeah, so it's multitask time.
At the same time. Yeah. So Ian, we had Xavier on a few weeks ago when Sexy Man was in Jamaica. So Xavier, who is our friend and associate, the president of Jamaicans.com, the prime minister, was on with us. And I don't know if many people know you, but y'all get these emails from sflcn.com. The man behind those emails and that website is Mr. Ian Hamilton. So you started off, Ian, kind of telling me a little bit about how that web. We're in we crossed paths inside of one of these Black-owned media alliance organizations here in South Florida. We've known each other for a longer time than that, but you were just telling me now how you even came up with that website and why it's still important in the South Florida landscape.
So what I was saying is that several years ago, Gloria Estefan was getting ready to do her farewell concert tour, and it was going to take place, I want to say either July or August, I can't remember, but irrelevant, and it got canceled due to hurricane. Mm-hmm. So it moved to the same weekend as Miami Carnival, and watching the news the whole week, they just kept talking about Gloria Estefan and her thing. So I was like, man, so if something happened in the Caribbean American community, where would they don't talk about it? Right. Where would you go?
Right.
So at that time, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the LinkedIn, all of those things weren't there. I think Jamaicans.com, big up to Xavier, was really the only online mechanism that was there, and it was still in a different space. So I decided, I was doing some community consulting work with Western Union, and everybody would always come to me and say, hey, what's going on? Can Western Union sponsor my event?
Mm-hmm.
And then, we all used to buck up and do events on the same night. So I said, man, there has to be a centralized place where we could do a running calendar of events and different things. So came up with the idea. I checked in with one of my mentors, I guess I could say, Caribbean Today, Peter Webley. I said, Peter, you didn't have, his site wasn't even online at that time.
Right.
And he's like, yeah. So, what, I just decided in typical Jamaican fashion, we just went ahead and said, what, do your own thing.
Right.
We're still cool, but you know what? And that's the beauty of it. It's, we live in an enterprise world, and we just have to be able to do our thing. So I started South Florida Caribbean News as a central portal at that time to really just be a source of information. I'm not a writer. I don't write. Can write, but I don't. So I just started it as an opportunity to engage both sides at the end of the day. David and I were just gesturing about ad sales or sales, and we talk about collaborating on content. So that's really what it is in putting it together. When you look at big media companies, be it the Huffington Post, where they came from and where they are today, and it's just there. It's just evolved and it's grown, and just different components to it. So I appreciate the support. We still engage and utilize each other, but there's just so much information out there in different sources. We talked about the multitasking, and I forgot who said something this week on one of the Facebook or something, that David Lawrence, who was a publisher of Miami Herald, said people get their news and information from multiple sources.
Right.
So as much as we talk about we may compete or we're doing this or that, you know what, there's enough out there where everybody could get a chance to look and see, touch and feel. So that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and everybody has their own unique identity, I think, right? It's not like you go to your site. I don't go to your site and Jamaicans.com and what's forgetting name? National Weekly and Caribbean Today. I don't go to all of those and see the same exact story. So there's a personality that every site or media outlet has. For me, I get into arguments with certain people sometimes because I like to be collaborative. So we don't have issues. Us, you, Xavier, Caribbean Today. There's a group of Caribbean media houses that do very well together, and I think it would be stronger if we did more together, maybe.
Well, here's something funny that you said.
Yeah.
You referred to National Weekly as Fergie's paper. Why wasn't it just National Weekly? Because if you went to this, if we were to talk about traditional media in a sense, right? Let's say the Miami Herald or even Sun Sentinel. Do you know who the publisher is for either one of those publications?
No, but here's why I say it that way, because I know you guys. Like I know you, I know Peter, I know Xavier. I think I said we started off with Xavier.
Right. But still, I mean, for whatever reason though, in this marketplace, we always have a tendency, it's for hinting that, you don't refer to it as a product itself, just like we talk about Miami Times. You refer to it as Garth Reed's paper, Miami. And then
our Bobby Henry,
right, West Side,
we know the people behind it because they're part of our community.
Right.
I mean,
but no,
I feel that way, but I don't see what you're saying.
I don't know who the publisher of the Herald is. I don't know who the publisher of the Sun Sentinel is.
Right. And would it really matter? Would it matter? But again, in our community, for whatever reason, we have a way to Island Argent, Calibe. Why can't it be just this by itself as its own brand and identity? Yes.
So for those who are just joining us, we're here sitting with Ian Hamilton. I'm not going to say who he is because we're talking clearly he's media, and you'll learn more about Ian. South Florida Caribbean News. But I went somewhere this week, and somebody said to me, "Hey, I need to get in Calibe's magazine." so we get it all around.
I mean, in one sense, that's good.
No, I love that. For me, that is like brilliant. When that happens, that's like spectacular.
As long as you know who to call when you need that.
Right. But again, I have to still give yourselves credit in terms of just marketing, because I mean, if you're out here and you're doing something yeah, is it Calibe or is it the magazine that really stands out? So, a lot of people may say, well, boy, you know what? For more reasons than one, I may not necessarily be on the front end marketing South Florida Caribbean News, pounding that pavement. You let the product speak for itself. And we've gained from that in one sense, but then in the other sense too, we could probably even do a lot better if I were and had folks out marketing like yourselves. I mean, you think about it. Let's go back. I mean, when we talked about dating ourselves here, and you figure how many newspapers they used to have in South Florida at one point in time, right? And I used to always laugh. I mean, no disrespect to any of them that are out there, but they would walk around with the papers under their arm. Good marketing, from the Dr. Locks of the world to whatever, what people knew and knew who they were and can identify with them. So everything has its strategy and the way it works out in the marketplace. So I take nothing away from what anybody does.
No, and I think in this kind of market here now, you are part of your brand. So Oprah is her brand. I know you're not going to call Oprah for an ad, but it's Oprah's paper. It's Rachel Ray's paper, and people have started doing that as a thing. So for example, I felt very, privileged the other day. Somebody said to me, somebody's doing something in your magazine once again. But the association was, it's Calibe magazine, so it must be a good thing. I haven't seen the magazine, but it's Calibe magazine, so it must be a good quality product. So if you establish yourself a certain way, Oprah has established herself a certain way, and Rachel Ray has established herself. And so I think there's a brand identity that comes along with being Sexy Man, or that comes along with being Ian, or that comes along with being Xavier, that works and kind of helps to ID what it is that you're working on.
Right, so we could even talk about events.
Yeah.
I mean, people start calling people by events. Joey something, Eddie something. So I mean, right. So I mean, so there's
definitely in those two cases.
Right.
Rockwell something.
Right. At least rock the box.
Yeah.
But again, we all do things that help. At the end of the day, we're trying to make it work in this marketplace. We were joking again about how could we, as a group, as an entity, as a market, even succeed and become the brands like the Miami Herald, where it's just about the Miami Herald. It's no longer about the name. It's a name, but not who's
the
necessarily
name of the brand.
Right,
it's not
who's behind it. Who's
Yeah.
behind it? Because we don't go around and think, well, you know what, it's former publisher David Lawrence or whatever the case may be, the Miami Herald, him. So again, that's just what I see.
And I am with you, Ian, and I tell you, genuinely, I think that's on us. We can move the product to be the product on its own, and I think it's up to us to do it. Like, I do agree with Calibe that there's a brand identity with each of our names. But I think it needs to go way beyond. Like, if my network of people, let's just pretend that I know it, but let's just pretend my network is 15,000 people. That's not going to keep my business afloat. I need to go way beyond that. I need to have a network of people who love my product of 150,000 people. So if it's just going to be about my brand, then we're going to fall short.
Right, but
and so I feel like we need to push way beyond ourselves. I think the product needs to stand on its own. It can start off as part branding with your name.
Yeah, you start where you start.
I think you should go way beyond.
Right, and what I found from doing this for a number of years, because I've worked for mainstream media, be it the Herald, Cox, what have you, and what I found, having switched over to Cox when I was working with the radio, one of the things I always used to get involved with the numbers, the marketing research and stuff like that, and I didn't necessarily sell the radio station by itself. You were selling the market, because when you were with Cox, you were selling that black audience. And we get in front of clients and you would begin to have a conversation with them and you say, well, let's look at the research data. In South Florida, 50% of the black community is Caribbean nationals. And I would say to clients, if I didn't tell you I was born in Jamaica, you wouldn't know. So how do you identify who's walking through the door? You were joking about talking to a client earlier, and he said, well, you know what, we'll do this, we'll do that. But to the typical media buyer, marketing person, we could probably count on our one hand in South Florida how many are of color. I mean, I've been here for over 20 odd years, and I can actually recall the 2 or 3 main people. Office Depot used to be one of my clients. It was a black woman that was a marketing manager. But you don't have it here in South Florida, so you have to now begin to educate that person on the side of the desk about us as a community and culture.
Right.
And then you still get, well, how do I separate out a budget? Do I, Tom Joyner and the likes of the world do a very good job of selling that black audience.
Right.
But what percentage of that black audience, if we just stick with South Florida for a second, are Caribbean nationals that are making the Tom Joyner and the Hot 105s and all of these? But they don't, they don't care.
Yeah, they've assimilated.
Well, whether assimilated or not, I mean, you still get a lot of Caribbean nationals. If you go out here and did a survey right now, boy, I used to love Tom Joyner. I mean, they used to love Michael Baisden.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Baisden did something one night where he didn't even know who Barris was.
What?
And he played a Barris tune, and his phone lines blew up. He's like, oh my goodness, I got to take my show down to Jamaica and do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it just shows the power, and that was a national show. It wasn't just South Florida. But again, we, going back full circle, have to do a little different job in terms of how we present the market. Yes, it's great and proud we can come back to this as a brand by itself, but if we can't convince the marketplace that, Caribbean American nationals are a force to be reckoned with. We look at the politics. I mean, you look at Gillum and the rest. How many of them came to either one of us as a media entity to engage and have a conversation? Why did Gillum?
Gillum was the only one, yeah.
So what happened to the other 6? I mean, 5 from the Democratic side, 2, 3 from the Republican side. We don't matter?
Apparently not. And I'll tell you what.
That's a mistake, I think. And it may bear out in the polls tonight.
Hopefully it does, right? But that thing about assimilation is not something that I, thought of. Somebody actually said it to me. We were at a PBS or American Public Television conference in Georgia, talking to these people about, how come you've never had Caribbean content on public television nationally before? And the lady who was at this one of the stations in New York, where obviously that's a Caribbean stronghold, she said to me, we just never thought about it because Caribbean people assimilate so well into the society. They watch everything that everybody else watches. It's like there's no need to do this thing for them.
Well, yes, I agree with you there, and I would add one more component because we speak English. Well, it could be broken English or whatever, but we speak English, so therefore you just easily go in. So the Hispanics that are here say, well, oh no, you got to talk to me in my language. So therefore, if you're not putting it in Spanish, so if you're not putting it in Patois, then what happened? So
so
Creole,
the Creole has to be there, right? So that's one aspect. And then, we were talking about how do you structure. Hello from Staten Island. Sorry, I'm just going to do some shout outs to the people who are watching. Please remember to like, hit share. All of that good stuff. So I'm going to shout out the people who are watching, including Norman White, Rockwell, G, April, Sandra, Sharon, and Stacy Rose Warburton.
And if you don't mind, while we're there, welcome Stacy, big actress on the live. Anyone hearing of any solid results? I don't want any guesses. If you have solid results about election, please share in the feed so we can talk about it too. Thank you.
We're still rooting for who we're rooting for. But anyway, I'm on Jamaicans.com, we can't buy us. So we had a meeting with a young lady of color the other day. I'm just going to shout her out because I think she's awesome. Dr. G at the Urban League took some time and actually sat with us. I have this thing now where I'm going to try and find the head of every organization that I can find to sit down and talk to and pick their brain about the thing that I know that is their strength.
Okay.
So we went and spoke to her about leadership, about structure, about just pulling her team together because she's amazing at that. She raised $12 million to do her building, and she's doing all these awesome programs for the community. And in my mind, it's like, okay, she's doing this out of philanthropic money, but she showed us her breakdown. And as we're talking to her about leadership, she's like, okay, here's the structure of my company. Bam, just pulls out that, didn't prepare for us, just pulls out this paper. Bam, here's the organizational structure of our company. All right, so how do you set your goals? And she goes on the computer. Bam, there's all of her things just laid out clearly in front of her. So how do you make money? How do you do your fundraising and your she pulls out a piece of paper, bam, there's our structure and our organization. And for me, there is a lack of organization and structure that happens with us as Caribbean people. I feel like we run things like a party shop a lot of the time. It's always this hustle, we're gonna make the next dollar, but we don't sit down and plan out. Like she could say to me, we have this event, this is the main driver of fundraising for events for us for the year, this is how much it's gonna make, this is...
Let's be careful though, because when you say as Caribbean people we don't, she is a Caribbean person.
Typically, I'm talking about typically.
Right,
Obviously, not in her case. Like she's so there's the exceptions and then there's the rule. Typically, as Caribbean people, we do our party shop thing, and we're talking about all these various media houses, and not to say anybody's running their thing like a party shop. Obviously, some people are doing things very well, but typically, what we do is go after the next dollar, and we don't have that strong foundation and. I think you end up being associated with one person when there's not a structure underneath you. So she has made an effort to be able to replace herself. I don't know if she's found the person who can replace her yet, because she's a formidable woman. But she doesn't have to be in the weeds of everything. I don't know about you, but...
Well, what you're saying is she's not the head cook and bottle washer. Going
Right.
back to that same...
She's the orchestra leader.
Right.
She's
So,
the orchestra leader.
but I mean, that comes from probably a combination of things, going back to what you said, resources. I mean, there's a lot of resources that are available to us, but a lot of times our pride does not allow us to say, well, boy, you know what, let me... Funding, going back to that, I'll shout out Marie Gill, and Gill and Associates. I mean, that company can help us. The Broward Urban League can help us, but do we take advantage of those things? So you sit here and you say to yourself, well, what is my overall plan? So we look at the type of business entity. How do you come up and create a magazine? So you say to yourself, what is it that we're trying to accomplish and do here? A lot of us just break away and say, boy, you know what, I don't like that, man, so I'm going to do this over here on my own. But that's how we all came about here in South Florida, whether it's radio from, boy, I'm going to do pirate radio, I'm going to do internet radio. Again, those things have blossomed. The marketplace has changed. Enterprises have changed. There's no way that even a South Florida Caribbean News could have started or entered into the market. But with the way technology has evolved, it allows us now to enter the market a whole lot easier.
Right.
Are we doing it the right way? What is the bigger picture, bigger perspective that we could accomplish out there in the marketplace? I mean, we sit here and we wrestle with each other and we say, well, who's the bigger dog out there in the marketplace? How do we become a Huffington Post where AOL Black Voices say, you know what, let me get an AOL Caribbean Voices, whatever the case may be. The events that we do, our Caribbean events see more numbers than the typical Black American event. Hispanic events, Cayocho.
Yeah.
You go to something like that, Cayocho may see numbers, whether it's dwindling there or whatever, but go to the other side of the coin. You look at the kind of money that the sponsors will throw down at a Cayocho that we would dream about for our Caribbean events, and you have to say to yourself, well, why?
Right.
So going back to the whole thing that you talk about structure, talking about going to the marketplace and having a conversation with those marketing managers, brand managers. How do they see us? So you raised a good point, Calibe, where you talked about, you know what, I'm going to go sit and talk to the head of these companies. Have that kind of conversation with them. Again, you said to yourself, how do you see the African American community here in South Florida? What's your opinion? And have them answer it and see what kind of response you get.
Let me pause. But aren't we all really one community? The same way that we talk about when Cox is doing whatever it is, and we have, whatever the radio shows could be. All of the audience, the Black audience, is inclusive of the Caribbean and all the different people. Let's just even break it down. Let's say things like Jazz in the Gardens. Jazz in the Gardens is not, there's no separation, it's all of us.
Yeah, okay. So all right, so with that in mind, the acts that they bring out, yes, we can easily assimilate and enjoy those acts. I think maybe one year they brought on a reggae act. How come they don't bring on more?
Yannick Bryan has a contribution here. She says she missed the first part of the conversation. I think people run their business as a patty shop because we lack knowledge on how to do it right, also not being aware and available of the resources available. I agree with you, Yannick, and I was going to jump in somewhere and lost the thought, but you're right. We don't sit and actually do research on how to structure our things properly. What are, you were saying that there's funding available for things, whether it's through Marie Gill or somewhere else, and you are 100% right. Like, there are so many funding sources, or even for us, like, we're realizing that even with our event, there are some potential grants that we could take advantage of, or we just didn't know that they were there. So as you build up your knowledge base, which is a lot of what we don't want to do, we just want to yeah man, let's go do a thing, and you run out and start your hustle, which is how we end up, with certain things.
Yes,
but you have to start building that knowledge base. Thank you for that point, Yannick.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, again...
Sorry, and I'm gonna make the point too. You said that we are all one audience. That is actually not the case. So I think the reason that Akai Ocho might get a little bit more sponsorship is that when you look at it, and I'll go into, I know you do this sometimes, go into Census and look at the breakouts of things and whatever. I believe the Hispanic audience in South Florida makes a little bit more than the Black Caribbean audience as a median household income, and then the white audience.
Not necessarily.
When I'm instructed.
Alright, but then you have to check the reporting too. Who are they polling? How honest are the people being?
Yeah,
there's a lot of things going on. So I don't know if I'd agree with
maybe
you.
Perception is different from reality.
Right, perception, because
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to be funny, ethnic, and say, go into Hialeah. Really?
No, yeah, obviously.
Right, so I mean,
yeah.
right, okay, but is
Miramar
that
for us, right?
Right,
Yeah.
but is that the route person necessarily going to Cayocho?
Maybe, I don't know.
Right, but again, so even when you look at it, so when you look at the,
It's like a honest event, so.
right? No. But when you look at the even the breakdown within the Hispanic, you got Cubans. So Cubans is that larger number perception wise. What about those from Mexico? What about those from Colombia? I mean, so there are a lot of numbers that go in there. But again, let's come back to us as a Caribbean marketplace. So we get here. Do we start segmenting out Yardman Jamaicans versus the Trinis versus the Guyanese, what have you? You start going down there, you're losing.
Right.
You're going to lose that person that's on the other side of the fence.
And then that's where our problem is.
Right.
That we don't collectively say this is who we are.
Well,
So we don't have
but not only just that, because we all use that word Caribbean loosely too. Let's not right. We say Caribbean, but then when we start engaging, it's Jamaican.
It's pure Jamaican.
Right.
It's English and
English
Jamaican.
speaking.
Right. It's still English, but when we approach clients and start saying whatever, oh yeah, we're Caribbean media. Okay, what does it skew? But you still skew to the larger percentage of the quote unquote Caribbean population, which it is Jamaica, what it just happens to be. So that's when you kind of get, so, we talk about the market. I mean, I would challenge those of us, professionals that are here, when they engage with their companies, you go through most of these companies, hospitals, medical care. Who are in the hospitals? Who are the nurses? Doctors? Lawyers?
Jamaicans and Haitians. Yeah.
Right. So, so you look at it just from an employee-based standpoint to say, well, should they be doing something more with Caribbean targeted media? But we don't go out and sell the market. We go out initially and sell, well, boy, you know what, you buy my product first. And again, I take nothing away because we all do it. That's how we all got to eat and survive. But you've got to get into these people's head that there is a bigger marketplace out there. How do I reach them? What do I do? I told you I used to do some stuff with Western Union a while back. And Publix was one of the accounts that I used to work also. And Publix's store on 441 and 199. They used to send more money through Western Union at that location, sell more Guineas and Heineken, and probably they knew what to do.
Right.
So it was because of things like that nobody has a history and know that allowed Publix and Venice, who used to be the marketing manager for Western Union, they started looking and paying attention and said, wow, something's happening here.
Right.
You know what? Maybe we should do more. So I was one of the first ones in this marketplace that got Publix to kind of even segment out a budget to do stuff on a Hot 105 when they even had just a reggae show. Then it evolved and more. They had a black agency up in Atlanta that said, oh, you know, we got to do things like that. I had gotten that agency involved with doing stuff with Carnival.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you know, all of these events. I mean, how many people do Carnival see compared to like even compared to even a Coyote? So why is it that we can't sit, team up, understand, work with these marketers? I mean, I've thrown the idea out there a couple of times and say, you know what, maybe we should find, and life is so much easier now, you can go on LinkedIn and find that brand marketing manager.
Mm-hmm.
Invite them to come down here. I never forget when we were with the Miami Herald and Best Buy was getting ready to open up, and you know, Best Buy, the marketing folks would come in, what have you, and they actually put them on a tour bus and toured them around the city. Okay, how do we do something like that? So we know an event's coming up. Should we do something like that? How do you get them to feel in touch? But they may not get it and understand, but if we don't help educate them and show them what we consume as consumers in terms of brand, what we buy.
Right.
Do we even, well, yeah, I was gonna say, do we even know what we buy anymore? We're splintered in a lot of ways. Like, you spend time and say, oh, you know what, Caribbean people are gonna buy these three things. I mean,
no, but think about it. We all got a grocery shop, right? So
right.
Your choices are Walmart, Publix. You can't even count Winn-Dixie. Then yeah, you got the independent grocers. So I mean, Publix by default, Walmart by default, they're getting our money, right?
Well,
yeah.
I also know that from talking to some of these food stores the other day, learning that it's the bigger independents, the Sedanos and the Bravos and the Broadmeats and the Presidentes are taking up more market share now than the regular Walmart.
Well, that made it even worse. Any of them ever spent a dime with you?
A dime, yeah.
Okay.
A dime here and there. One dime. We have
Right,
got
but
two
again,
dimes,
you know,
yeah.
so with that, from that standpoint, you look at the masses and you still say to yourself, why isn't Sedano's looking at saying, well, wow, the Caribbean marketplace, how can I, if they're seeing that and can stock their shelves, should they advertise and market to?
I think there's also this, you know this, in our community, and I'm going to say using the broad Caribbean brush now, we don't believe in marketing for some reason. We want everything to be word of mouth and people, businesses. How many small businesses spend money with you? In all the years that you've been around much longer than us, how many small businesses actually spend money with you?
I mean, minimal.
Yeah, we don't, this community for whatever reason doesn't believe in marketing. I believe that we have to offer a better style of marketing. So for example, as we're growing and learning now, if somebody comes to us and says, I want to advertise with you, I want to sit down and have a conversation with them and understand what they want to achieve. And then how do we help them?
Right, but you
actually,
right, and we can go down industries. Let's take, for example, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably listened to a few different radio stations.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard a chiropractor advertise on a station outside of WABS?
No.
Why?
I don't know. Why is that?
I don't have the answer, but I mean, we sit in here and debate. Think about it. So we could go down categories of stuff. I mean, so you mentioned a minute ago, what do we consume? You go down the litany of stuff. I mean, you get on a cruise. Who do you see on cruises? We don't cruise?
We do.
Carnival, we could call them all out.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, but
why not?
But I'll tell you, they will say that because I can capture the same Caribbean people if I'm at ABC or Channel 10 or Channel 7 or whichever, or Herald or whatever, they're advertising it for mainstream because we've assimilated. I don't think they believe that there's a value.
No,
if
I've also said though is that we need to show them the metrics. Like,
yeah, but
that's what I was about to say to you. If we were actually doing that thing where there was a conglomeration of Caribbean media that could say these are the numbers that we have, maybe it would tilt the dial a little bit, but I don't know it.
Yeah, but that's a false statement. If they're saying that they can capture us through mainstream media, why do we have ethnic products that are out here? forget about just even what we have
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So you go down to Black Enterprise, Ebony, they may be in those type of publications too, right? So they don't just do a broad brush stroke and say, I got you.
But no, I think the thing is that we either fall into mainstream, or we fall into black, or we fall into Latin.
Right,
So,
because we don't have a good way to go out there and tell our story. Everybody's going out there at a one-off shoot. We don't necessarily, from what I've seen, again, this is just my opinion.
we're getting there.
Right? That's my opinion. It's a good quality product. So again, you sit and you have to understand. So we have to do what Calibe, what you talked about. A is, how do I sit with the top person and help understand their needs? Going back to what you said. You know what, boy, they don't want to buy me, but help me understand. Do we have to do a video? You know what we should do? You get a videotape. You go out there by Jerk Festival come November, right? Video the caliber of cars that are out there in terms of what Caribbean Nationals drive up. And you telling me there's no Benz, there's no Lexus, there's no BMW. So how could you say at the end, so is that a positioning piece for us to say, well, hey, look at my event, look at the numbers, look at what people are driving. Why wouldn't you advertise or I got you over there, So come on, I mean, but we it used to be back in the days where people, we'll protest. I was talking with someone today, and we talked about, for example, the NAACP. They did a scorecard on companies that did things well with the black community, and they grade them A through F. You get an F, man. Do you want to? Who want to come home with an F? Right. The banks, what have you. Wells Fargo. I mean, we go down again categories. How many of us put our money in a bank? We all do. Which bank? There's no quote. I mean, outside of say the one black-owned bank. But other than that, the percentage of us are putting our monies there. But how do we get to that person? Is there a person? Do we have to rely on a person of color? Because you got a lot of blacks that are in high positions in these companies. Do they make the decision that says, yo, you need to buy that media? Are you saying it just by them because I happen to be a Caribbean national? Or is there something of value? Is there a value to your product?
So here's the thing that I would also point out. And I don't know if we should belabor this type of dialogue and everyone's interesting. Questions, comments, please share. Election results are coming in, thank you. But here's the thing that I'm going to say now. And I don't have an ego tied up in my product. Right? It's a bold statement. I don't have an ego. But what happens is that when I go somewhere and I show them my product, and they say, well, there's product A, B, and C that I'm already working with. Your product looks and feels better. I want to do it, but your ad is 4 times the price of product A, B, and C. Well, it's clearly a better looking product and a better produced product. But I'm already reaching the marketplace with products A, B, and C. I don't need product D, especially because you're so much more expensive. I like the quality of what you're producing, but I don't need to spend that because I'm already reaching the same people with these other products. There's that as well. So there's been this, like they say, ease to market. Like right now we have our own television station, ease to market. We don't have all of the production costs. So maybe, the ABC is saying, but if we're selling advertising, we can't sell at the same price of ABC. It's a different quality product, it's a different reach, and so on. And I think what's happening is that there is a lot of the feel of, well, hey, yeah, your product is great, but I already reaching people through Facebook Live. I don't need to be on the national television or.
Yeah, I think that is finding the right right.
But again, if we come back, so we're talking about politics, and again, I still come back and ask the question: why did one candidate decide to say, you know what, I'm going to invest money and time to come and sit and have a conversation with you, with the Rockwells of the world, with the WABs of the world?
Because he knows the power. He knows the power.
Yeah, well, hopefully it should translate. Let's go back again, because what we all are talking about is, we could tip the scale one way or the other. And that's what they don't realize. So if we were to look at it from that standpoint, should we support the other politicians that, and are we saying, just because he or she did not come over here and invest time and money with the Caribbean media, that we shouldn't give them any love? But yeah, there should be some strength in numbers that say, you know what, let's be a force to reckon with. Let's do something that says, hey, you know what, you didn't invest time and money with us. You know what, we don't want you.
I think more important than that is, did you actually sit with me and listen to my needs? Did you recognize that I was here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, even separate and apart from investing with us or coming, you know, it's a matter of saying to this community, which is why I think the country's in the situation it's in, when you decide I'm going to just take this for granted that these people over here in this state or in this community are down for me, you know. And I think it's the reason that Mayor Gillum is now at 24. I think he started off at 12%, and this lady, Graham, was way ahead. She's still way ahead. She's still 12 points ahead of him right now, but he is now ahead of...
Depends on where you're looking, cause right here, Graham 37, Gillum 32.
Oh,
I got 719.
Updates going up. Remember, it's constant updates.
Exactly.
And he came into the game late, so imagine if he had come in like a few weeks earlier.
Yeah,
you know, but him going after that, they said that it was the black communities that got Obama the election. Mm-hmm. And I know in that 2012 election, I was out there knocking on every door and mobilizing everybody in Miami Gardens, which was, you know, which is one of the most concentrated black communities apparently, at least in this state. Mm-hmm. And we made a difference. So if that's what he's been doing, and I know that's what he's been doing for the past few weeks, you know.
Well, it's also having a diverse. Keep in mind, going back to what we talked about, having a diverse staff around you. Yeah. So you look at it. I think Levine, he had Luther Campbell endorse him, mm-hmm. what have you. I found that interesting, especially coming off of the beach. But again, so you know, I think in looking at what I could see, the staff around mm-hmm. the rest of the candidates mm-hmm. did not necessarily have a diverse staff. And you compare that to what Obama did. Mm-hmm. He had a diverse staff around him. Look at the guy that's in the White House now. You know, he had a couple tokens here, mm-hmm. but again, how diverse is his staff? So again, he don't really care about the rest of UNO.
Mm-hmm. UNO for real.
Right? You know, so what's he doing? So, you know, I mean, so even with that, from a political standpoint, how do we in the market show our political clout? By voting, by getting engaged. How many of us do that? You know, we talked about the resources in terms of saying, you know what, how do we use our politicians? They use us, how do you use them?
Yeah, this is America, you can't really bun tie on the road and all them kind of.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, the way you engage with politics, but you know what, it's still, I mean, again, they're still out there. I think they can do stuff and open doors for us. I mean, you know, the Dale Holnesses of the world, Hazel Rogers, Messam, mm-hmm. they will all do stuff, but mm-hmm. I mean, again, you can't come to them, boy, give me a blight, right. without having something that would say, this is what we can and can't do, right. and at least get some direction. It goes back to earlier, maybe he could point you to some funding sources mm-hmm. if you had the right business plan, but right. again, how do we come up and understand what are we doing, what do we understand out here as a need in the marketplace? Do we need another magazine? Mm-hmm. You know what, somebody may say, well, I don't like what Calibe, I'm going to start my own food magazine. Mm-hmm. Come on. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the mentality that right. we had here, but I think that has somewhat calmed down a little bit, but the events are still there, different things are still happening, but yeah, it's just a matter of engaging, getting involved with the community, the political, you know, hats off to the Marlon Hills of the world. I mean, he does a very good job of being engaged and marketing himself.
And representing for all of us. Yeah.
Right. You know, again, that broad brushstroke Caribbean, Marlon, Jamaican, yes, he can still tout that, but I think he still sells the Caribbean as an entire market.
Yes, and I think we're doing a lot better in terms of working together and cohesively and coherently. I don't feel that separation. Like we do have somebody who is looking at starting a food magazine, but what they've done is they've come and said, well, you guys are doing a good job here. Can we partner to do this thing together? And we're finding that people are coming to us. I don't know if it's because, well, I'm going to say it is probably because of this open arms policy that we have, where I don't want to compete with everybody. I want us to do that thing where we pool resources so that we can all kind of benefit from it. And I think that's the sentiment among the people in our group here. So we've started seeing that where people are coming and saying, let's partner on these projects, or we go to other people and say that they're kind of open to it. So hopefully that's changing. Hopefully that's changing.
I know.
It does change depending on who the personalities are too. So, what's your company culture? What are the ways that you want to do things? It will make a difference.
Right, and we have to admit the marketplace has just changed so much over the years. I mean, again, hats off to Peter. I think he's celebrating 30 years.
Yeah. December 1st.
Right.
December 1st, Caribbean Today is going to be at the Miramar Cultural Center celebrating their 30th anniversary. I believe the tickets are either $75 or $100. Please go out and support Peter.
Right, so, and then Jamaicans.com, who, I think the primary one from a web standpoint in terms of what they've done. You got to give them credit for what they've done and survived. And we all have that opportunity. I don't think any one of these publications, what I do from a South Florida Caribbean news standpoint, takes away from anything that those two entities, I would say, has really built up over the years.
I'm gonna tell you, you know what? For me, I don't know what segment you're after versus what segment Xavier and Jamaicans.com is after. So South Florida Caribbean News, to me, provides me with current stuff in this marketplace.
Okay.
And Jamaicans.com as a separate entity provides me with just like more focus on some cultural elements, like food recipe or news that's surrounding some cultural thing. What are the thoughts and feelings of some people? I think there's a very different segment. To me, you may not mean it that way, but that's the way I receive the information from the different platforms.
Right. So when you think about the product itself, I agree with you, and I think Jamaicans.com was the initial Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an engaging piece, and again, it brought that culture together because as Caribbean nationals, we're proud. Jamaicans prouder. So therefore, from that standpoint, he had a hook earlier on before all of this stuff just blew up.
Mm-hmm.
But he was still able. I mean, we're all still sitting here utilizing a Facebook Live. Where's our Facebook Live type product?
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, there's so many things and opportunities. Again, we have to look and think of bigger picture in terms of opportunity. What does our marketplace want? From an event standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from a media standpoint, the radio, all of those things are out there and opportunities present themselves. So we just have to really and truly continue to all preach to the marketplace, hey, we're a vibrant community. We have resources. We do spend money. We do things. How do you reach us? It's the same way you spend your money in different places there. Why not spend it in a couple different things, from Island Origins to a South Florida Caribbean News to an event that's happening out in the marketplace? Let us help you do something like that. Would be how I would, go to market and have fun. So, I hope, as we look at the elections, right now we do a lot of supporting with Mayor Andrew Gillum. We can only hope that he takes it to a next level and gets past this phase into, the November election. And what can he help us with? So if we helped put him where he needs to be, how do we reciprocate and get that? But we can't come to him with the patty shop mentality.
Right.
No, definitely.
Yeah, and I liked that when I did an interview with him. I was able to do an interview with him that I was grateful for, and he was a good sport about it. We do our proper questions and then we do our quick fire, fun things. And he joined in that. But one of the questions that Marlon actually, I put a call out who has any questions for him, and one of the questions that Marlon asked was, how do you plan to represent all of us in your cabinet? And he, I don't remember the intricacies of it, but it was important to him that he had the Caribbean faces and the black faces and the white faces and the Native American faces and all of the people who make up South Florida with him and representing. And I believed him when he was talking. Like, the thing that I like about him Having looked at some of the debates and what have you, and all the Democrats look like they're probably decent people. I don't believe in this, if you're rich or a bad person and I'm better because I'm a poor person. But there's a genuineness about him and how he communicates with people. Plus, when I asked him jerk chicken or oxtail, he said jerk chicken, so that was very important for me and I think the Caribbean community in general. Right. Also, what was the other thing? What's his favorite Jamaican song? He said action. Right? It was his favorite reggae song. What's his theme song? Is all I do is win, win, win. Right. So all of those things were very important to me, and I think the entire Caribbean community. What do you think?
I think so. Interestingly enough,
yes.
These up-to-date polling responses with 10 minutes left in our show. So at 7:50 on New York Times reporting, Gillum is doing well, but he's in a second place position. Far enough. Gwen Graham has 34% of the vote, and he has 28% of the vote.
So where's like Levine?
Levine is in third at 21%, and this is
Green.
The others are 16.
I can't go down there. Yeah. No, Green is at 11. Chris King 2%, Weatherby 1%, and Lundmark 0.5%.
So with that, let me ask you a question, and I didn't get to ask it on your show that time. We look at these candidates, and you said yourself, some of them were saying, oh, I got all this money and I can do all of this, and you get to Gillum who says, I'm the only non-millionaire running. You look at what's happening out here today with who's in the White House and the kind of caliber of money that he allegedly has. But you look at what's been so disruptive, and then you get the Greens and what have you, Chris King, and they just swear how they got all this money. Is that what makes the next person good, better, bad?
I think having the money when they describe it as they're coming for, like Jeff Green, I don't fault, right? He talked about his father dying early, his mother being a single mother and having to take on this kind of, he built, apparently, if you follow what he says, and I haven't delved into his actual background, but if you follow what he says, he built his own wealth, and there's something to be said for that. Our current president didn't build his own wealth. He inherited his money from his daddy, and he's figured out how to manipulate debts to make it work for him. And I don't know that that's translating over to the rest of the country, but the difference between a Jeff Green and a 45 is that I see a Jeff Green and he seems like he's doing good things. He talks about wanting to invest his own money in schools and building things out and doing things for children and what have you.
And that may be good,
yeah.
And I take nothing away from
Yeah.
that. I guess the one thing that I kind of laugh at is he said, you know what, when his membership is up at Mar-a-Lago,
yeah.
he won't renew it. It's like, well, cancel it from now.
Yeah.
He already paid the money, I get it. If I paid for the chicken, I'm going to eat the chicken.
My principle is my principle.
Right.
And, I find out that where I buy my chicken, they're actually, being inhumane and cruel to animals. And I'm like, you know what, I don't want that to be a part of what I do. Even though, I left $150 on credit there, I'd rather stop buying from that place and forego the money. That if that's
so
my
was
principle.
it okay? So, right. So,
Yes,
so along those same lines. So before the whole issue with 45 and what he's really showing himself now, he wasn't doing that before?
Apparently not. I don't know.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't see that side of persona until he came down the escalator and said Muslims are rapists and murderers. I did not know that side. I knew it was crass and everything.
Right, but I mean, we can't say that just because he got the office that he could just change and say, oh, that man was like that before.
I know he was like that from he came out to, you could see the transition from the whole birther movement kind of thing. But in the days of The Apprentice, I did not see that. In the days when he was hanging out with the black celebrities and the rappers and the black models and dating black models and stuff, you didn't see that. So even Butch Stewart, I believe, came out at the beginning of Donald Trump, 45 presidency, and was saying, oh, he's a great man, he's not a racist and everything. I don't know that Butch Stewart could say that right now.
That's my whole point. So the TV's on and more. So now everything is starting to come out. The truth, he can't bite his tongue anymore. I mean.
Or you become, people argue with me on this point all the time. I think you can become something that you were not before. I think there's a dark side in each of us, and I know my dark side exists because I've seen it before and I don't like it, and I purposely stifle it. There's a dark side and a light side in each of us, and it depends on who is leading you, who is guiding you, who is around you, who you're allowing to lead and guide you, as to what you're allowed to come.
So you're saying he's doing some of this to impress those who voted for him to say, yo, check.
He got a reaction from certain people when he started saying this. From the birther movement and all that kind of stuff, he started getting a reaction. And as he kept going, he was able to build on it.
And he's enjoying that.
Yeah, and I do believe that because of this whole reality star persona, whatever, every time he would do a little Marco and a Rocket Man and I like people that weren't captured. It was kind of funny in the moment until you realize, hold on, what he just said. But if you're not the person who is actually going to check your little dark devil on your shoulder as opposed to the angel, right? If you're the person who's going to say, haha, that's funny, and I find that a lot of Christian people, sorry for saying this out loud, but I find that a lot of Christian people like to see a little cheeky thing over here and go ha 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 about that thing, and sometimes it allows you to come up, even though you're maintaining your Christianity. Like all of these people in the Midwest who are Donald Trump supporters, are 45 supporters, even though he's doing all of this evil stuff with the kids at the border, even though he's robbing women by the what's it not, even though, how do you balance all of that out? Not saying that this is every Christian person. I did not say that. Don't bite my head off, right? But those ones in the Midwest who are allowing all of this to continue happening.
Well, I mean, so I begin to also wonder and question individuals that still swear that this guy is whatever he is. I mean, you got to think about it. So you agree and can say, well, what he's doing is right. I mean, not you, but I'm just saying individuals that are out there. You look at this situation with a McCain. You know what? I'm so whatever that I'm not going to lower the flags to half staff. I'm not going to. He didn't even give condolences to the family. That's like, yo.
That's what I'm saying. Like if he was a good person before, he's allowed the darkness to take him over, and he's taken a whole lot of people with him. And the darkness that we're seeing in the American persona right now is coming from the fish rocks from the head. They say, when our dearest Obama, if you never like him, that's your problem. When our dearest Obama was up there, whether you liked his policies or not, you knew he was a decent person. He was somebody you wanted your children to look up to just for the decency of him. That's not happening anymore, and the whole country didn't go that direction, but a whole big swath of the country went the other direction because of the leadership that we have. So leadership does make a huge difference. And
I would just like to report that with 2 minutes left before the show goes off the air, Gillum has gained 2 percentage points.
Nice.
So with 40% reported, he's at 30 and Graham's at 33. So he is gaining and Levine is falling back behind. He's lost 2 percentage points. So there's still no votes in from Broward as yet. So if Broward is going to carry Gillum in some way, we have some hope of catching up in that race. But as it stands right now, the difference is about 30,000. When I first started looking on the show, it was about 50,000 separated them. So Gillum has gained about 20,000 on Graham. So she's currently at 320, and he's at 290. So votes at this point. So
and
interesting
the
numbers.
Closed at 7.
It closed at 7. So it's just counting.
1 minute from now. Oh no, it closed already.
Closed already.
When we started.
So for example, some counties are like 80% in, 100% in, small counties. But like I said, if you look at Broward up to this point.
What's Miami Gardens looking? Or just
Miami, Dade is all together. Dade is like 60% reported.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And if you see here, like for example, you see Dade.
Yes.
Gillum has 40,000 to Graham's 20,000.
Wow.
So he's double her there. I think Broward might be even more. So
yeah. If Miami Gardens came out for Gillum, there's still a chance. So next time Gillum starts a little earlier. that 2 weeks would have made a huge difference. We have 1 minute left.
1 minute.
So we are going to invite everyone to please make sure that you check out sflcn.com, sign up for their newsletter for all of your latest news and information. There's not too much gossip on there. There's a little bit of opinion stuff, but it's all the news that you want to know from the Caribbean community. We are going to take a little bit of a hiatus. I am not sure how long yet, but we'll let you know when we're coming back. To Jamaicans.com and Island Origins, the Facebook pages of. In the meantime, we have a live that we're doing this Friday evening. I think 6 or 7 o'clock on our page, on Island Origins page. We have an event coming up. I don't know if that's a public event, so I'm not going to say anything about it. We have David's event, Reggae Reel, is on right now at the Pompano Beach Cultural Center. It's available. It's open Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go out and see it. It looks absolutely fabulous. The carnival is coming up in October. Sorry, the end of September into October.
Yeah,
Yes.
September,
It starts late September, goes into October. We'll be back before Jerk Festival. Remember, Jerk Festival is coming up in November as well. And if you want an ad in the next issue of Island Origins, they're still available. Make sure.
You gotta hustle.
Friday we're done.
Yeah,
Friday we're done. And you definitely want to be in this one. It's the style issue, looking very sexy right now.
So David's on the cover?
That's right.
David is on the cover. Sexy man.
My name
Sexy
on it.
man.
Not my picture.
All right. To everybody who joined us in the late part, and Karen Daly, Maisie Blanchard, Malachi, Laverne, hardworking Deb, Allison Hunt, thank you all. Laverne is shouting you out. She says, thank you SFLCN for your continued support. And he really is a supporter of everybody in the community. Make sure you go and sign up for the newsletter. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Thank you all for joining us. Do share, and we'll see you soon. We'll let you know. We'll put an announcement when we're coming back on. But we're on a small hiatus.
4 to 8 weeks.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, well, let me lock it down.
Lock it down.